So about 18 months ago, the team here at Palm City Presbyterian Church in Florida reached out to us at Churchfront to tell us about this facility you see here, their Family Life Center. During the week, it's a functioning rec center. You have volleyball teams and basketball teams having practices and games. And then on Sunday, they host their contemporary worship services in here for the church. So it's a multi-use room. And the AV systems they're using in this room were out of date. It didn't sound good. It didn't look good. The lighting system was insufficient. And they wanted to make some significant upgrades to this space so that it feels more like a worship center on Sundays. Well, the problem is when you have an active rec center in a space like this, it poses a lot of AV challenges. But the Churchfront team, we were up for those challenges, and we spent the past year and a half working hard on the designs. And then over the course of a few weeks, our assembly and install team was hard at work. So now I'm excited to show you what we came up with. In this episode of Worship Tech Tour, we are going to walk you through all of the audio, video, lighting, and integration systems our team deployed here at Palm City Presbyterian Church. You're going to want to watch this episode of Worship Tech Tour to the end because in this system we have some of our most favorite solutions and innovative solutions here at Churchfront that we've ever deployed. We've got a premium line array system by Meyer Sound. We have an incredibly powerful mixing setup using Allen and Heath mixing systems. And then we also have Canon PTZ cameras, ATEM video switching. We've got an altitude LED screen, and then this incredible lighting rig by Chauvet and ProChurch lights fixtures. We're going to be going over a lot of equipment in this video, and it's going to be overwhelming keeping track of all of the recommendations that we have here at Churchfront. So I want to encourage you to download our free Churchfront toolkit down below. It's going to have links to all of our recommended systems, many of which you see here in this video. Here are a few important things to consider if your church is considering making a gymnasium into a worship center. The first really important thing is going to be acoustic treatment. Gymnasiums are naturally very reverberant, so you need to add absorption to the walls of your space. So here at Palm City, we have lots of acoustic treatment. So prior to this upgrade that we just did, they already had some acoustic treatment in here because they were meeting in here for worship with an older system. So years ago, they installed this acoustic treatment that's up here along the upper portions of the wall on both the back wall as well as the side walls. But a really important thing about acoustic treatment is you want it to be at listener height where we're going to be standing, because all the energy will be reflecting off of the hard surfaces and then hitting the ears of the listeners. That can really clutter up the mix and the sound. So as a part of this project, we were able to add additional acoustic treatment here. But there's another factor you got to consider with a gymnasium. It needs to withstand impact, because there are going to be volleyballs, basketballs, people running into the walls here as they're playing sports. So you can't just put up any acoustic treatment. You want to make sure it is impact proof and it has the right absorption effect to it for the acoustical result that we're looking for in the space. The other important consideration is where's your stage going to be, and then how are you going to protect that stage from all of the balls that are going to be bouncing around the space. So this space was originally built to be a combination of a theater and a gymnasium, and a simple trick to protecting the stage here is going to be the big black thick curtains that we're able to retract when services are done. If anything hits those curtains, it's not going to make it through and get to the stage where we have fragile instruments or our LED screen or anything like that. And then here at this space, they also have some side screens. These are fully retractable screens, and the motorized screens are actually recessed into the ceiling, so they completely disappear when they are not down during the week. So again, you don't have to worry about basketballs going up there, hitting the screen itself, or even the recessed motorized contraption that puts them up into the ceiling. Another thing you got to consider with impact in a gymnasium space is the PA system itself. So we've got our line array system and our subwoofers that are flown up above us here, and these are very rugged pieces of equipment. So we're not concerned if a volleyball or a basketball does end up impacting them. It's really not going to have much of an impact. Of course, you want to make sure the rigging and aiming is done properly so that, if they get bumped a little bit, they're going to be pointing back at the same spot that they need to be. Another consideration we had here was for our lighting fixtures. So what we ended up doing is we went with some higher end moving fixtures by Chauvet, where if those are going to get impacted by a ball as well, they might move a little bit, but because they're moving fixtures, the motors will be just fine, you know, if they're off and they move in a direction. And then when you turn them back on, you can just re-aim them to where they need to be. They do make special cages and such, especially if you have fixed ellipsoidal spotlights and things like that, that you can consider looking into. But for here, the greatest flexibility for being a gymnasium, as well as wanting to aim fixtures wherever we need them for different lighting scenes, that was going to be the Chauvet movers, which we'll show you later. Finally, you have to consider, where is your front of house tech booth going to be? Where's production control going to be? Fortunately here, they have a second story in the building, and then up there is where all of our workstations are for sound, video, and running lighting and Pro Presenter. And then probably my favorite solution we implemented here, Matt will show you more details about it, will be this confidence monitor that we have protected, and the motorized contraption that lowers our PTZ cameras for services and retracts it when we're not using them. So stick around for the rest of the video to see the details on that. You also need to consider your house lighting in a space like this. It is great to have color changing house lights, but you can't necessarily go the pendant route because you don't want your lighting fixtures to be hanging down and then being hit by the balls that are bouncing around. So we had a really awesome house light solution that will walk you through these recessed lights. They're color changing. They're very, very bright for the number of fixtures that we have. So we'll walk you through that with the lighting system as well.
So come with me on a journey of how the sound gets from our stage and our band and our instruments up to our sound booth and ultimately to the PA that Jake's going to talk about. We got to install probably one of our favorite PAs we've ever installed here at this church, so pay attention, stick around for that because you're really going to like the PA here. But let's start here. We've got the F-Note Pro 703X drum kit. We've talked about this kit before on this channel because we actually sold them this kit probably about a year ago now with their other building and stuff, but they've been using this now consistently for a while, and it does have some great sounds. One thing to note with these that we are going to probably make a video about very, very soon is they finally released a version 2.0 firmware that allows you to load your own sounds. So one of the biggest complaints about the F-Note kits was that you couldn't load your own custom sounds and layer your own custom sounds. Well, they fixed that and you can do that now. So we will be playing around with that in the near future, trying to see what kind of sounds we can get out of the F-Note Pro. So this is their drum station. It's upstage left on their stage, and it looks great in this space. They've done a great job. They've already been in the space now for a few weeks, and you'll notice the stage is pretty clean, and we got to give some props out to Palm City Presbyterian Church because their stage stayed clean after we left. And Jake, how many churches does the stage get messy in right after we leave?
All of them.
All of them. So Palm City, good job keeping your stage clean. Moving along, we've got our bass position here. He's just going to a direct DI. You'll notice that we do have the ME1s in each one of these positions. They've got these cool little clamps. You can clap them directly onto music stands because they use music stands here. That just made the most sense for most of their instrumentalists and singers. Then we've got a lead guitar position. He plays from right here. He does have a little stool because he sits a lot of the time, but we've got a lead guitar position. We've got a rhythm guitar position. I'm going to be honest, both of these guys really can play, so calling one lead and one rhythm, I don't know if it's exactly fair, but they both sound great. One of the main contacts of the church, her name is Andrea. She actually plays this keyboard on a weekly basis, so she's up here in this position. She also sings, so that's why she's a little bit further forward. They've got another keyboard player across the stage, of course. These guys still are on the ME1 system, so this guy plays mostly pads and synths and stuff from over here. On a weekly basis, they generally have an acoustic guitarist, stands up front here, and a few vocalists as well that sing on the front of this stage. And it does really sound great in this room. They've got a good team, it's solid. And then obviously behind us, we got the video wall. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's continue on with the sound journey. So we've got all our instruments, and we send all those signals back here through some stage snakes. You'll notice in this space, we don't have floor pockets. And the reason for that is it would have cost a considerable amount of money to add floor pockets to this stage because this is actually a giant slab of concrete with a stage built on top of it. So instead of doing that, we did opt to go with some stage snakes. So come back with me, let's go back to the rack and we'll look at that. All right, so back here at the stage rack, we're gonna start with the audio side of what we did in this space. And working from the top and bottom of this audio rack, we do have a network switch here. We have a lot of networked audio going on in this location. You'll notice a Dante Avio receiver right here. This is their Bluetooth receiver. We installed one of these in their sanctuary space as well, but this allows someone to come in and without having to hook up to their soundboard even, they can play some music over their speakers, over their Meyer PA system in this space. And we're gonna show you the really cool solution that we implemented so that they can do that without even turning on their Avantis console here. The next thing you'll notice down is a Waves Proton Duo. They wanted a little bit of waves processing, you know, vocal pitch tuning, things like that. The ability to add that to their setup without having to spend a ton of money. So the Proton Duo really is a great option for Super Rack because it can run both the host software and it works as your server at the same time. So one little computer does both for your Waves setup. Moving on down the rack, we've got our Galileo Galaxy processor. So this is actually handling all of the audio processing that is happening inside of our Meyer PA system. So just because they're powered speakers doesn't mean you don't need to do things before the signal gets to them. So there's actually some processing, EQing, room tuning, all of that's happening in here, as well as some delays. We've got some front fills in this room, also some delays up by our sound booth. The next thing we added in here, and this is the first time we've added one of these devices into a system, this is the Allen & Heath AHM. And what's great about this little guy is this works as a secondary processor that we can add some basic scenes to so that we can do some control in this space without having to even go through the Avantis console. So we'll show you some of the things that we did to implement that into the space. The next thing we have down is their Shure wireless ULXD systems. They've got 3 of those systems in this space. One of them is just a 2-channel system. The other 2 are 4-channel systems. So they have a total of 10 channels of wireless in here. And of course, we are doing what we generally do, which is manage all of that RF through an RF Venue Distro 9. Continuing to move on down, we have the Shure PSM 300 systems here. These are for their in-ears. So we have 6 wireless in-ear units that they can use for their band. So most of those are used for singers or anyone that needs to move around the stage rather than be at one of those ME1 positions we showed you just a minute ago. And then obviously we have a RF Venue Combine 8 combiner for those 6 wireless IEM systems. They have the room to add 2 more on this RF Venue combiner, so they've got some future proofing there and the ability to add a couple more IEMs. The next thing we have down on the rack here is the DX012. This is just basically a rack output device for the Allen & Heath system, and this allows us to send a bunch of outputs to the wireless IEM systems here so that they can have stereo in-ears for all of these 6 IEM systems. Moving on down the rack, we have the Allen & Heath MEU. This is what is sending all of those signals to the ME1s on stage, and we did some custom Cat6 cables here that lay flat on the stage, so they're really nice rather than, you know, if you normally lay Cat6 cables on the ground, they're all coily and they don't lay very flat. These are some really nice Cat6 cables that lay flat on the stage with an Ethercon connection on this end here to plug into the MEU. Moving on down the rack, finally we have our stage box. It's the GX4816. This allows them to have 48 inputs here on stage and 16 outputs. They're obviously not using the whole thing at this point, but it's got a lot of flexibility for future use if they need to upgrade. And this is one of the nicer stage boxes from Allen & Heath. This does run at 96K if you need it to. Finally, on the bottom, we do have a battery backup solution for this rack as well.
The front of the rack is always cool to go through, but my favorite part is the back of the rack. You can see the amazing work of our technicians here at Churchfront. So again, from top to bottom, you see all the gear that Matt just went through, but lots of work from Chris, our lead technician, and the rest of the team, Parker, as well as some other guys who helped out on this project. Very, very happy with how this all integrated. It's very easy for us to access the gear. I like these BGR racks by Middle Atlantic and the lights that go in them. So now when I open them up, the lights automatically turn on with a motion sensor, and we're able to easily see all of the ins and the outs and the network connections and the term blocks, and very incredible work our team was able to do here on this. So this is just me being a proud integration business owner, wanted to show that off. Welcome to the production room here at Palm City. So we've got this large window that gives us access to hear and see what's going on down in the main auditorium. And they've got these large sliding windows that will then close during the week while there are sports happening down here to protect all the fantastic gear that I'm about to walk you through in this space. Let's stay in audio world because we have not finished that walkthrough yet. Over here, we've got our front of house mixing console, and this is also creating our mix for the broadcast here at the church. So the mix engineer here can mix what's going on in the room. They can slap on some headphones. They can solo the broadcast mix matrix, and then they can make some adjustments to that mix as well. Really keeps their team lean, and this works really well in an environment where we have an incredible sound system that gives the mix engineer incredible accuracy. And once you blend in some ambience mics and room mics into the mix, it just translates online very clearly, and it just sounds great. So the Allen & Heath Avantis console, I really think this is the best solution for a lot of churches that are kind of in that mid-size venue range, and they also have, I would consider, a medium amount of inputs they need to handle. I love how the Avantis has a Dante option card on it for Dante audio networking, and it has a Waves card in it as well, so we can use the Proton Duo in Waves Super Rack to add a few plugins like tuning, and we're also using some plugins for the live stream mix bus to really make that mix radio ready in real time. You've got plugins like Vitamin, the L2 limiter, and then Playlist Rider. Just again, keep the volume nice and strong for the live stream, and it really does real-time mastering on a mix that, again, it's a secondary mix coming off of this console. So when someone's mixing here on a Sunday morning, they have this Dell touchscreen to control waves over here in the plugins. And then they've got the amazing workspace on the full-size Avantis with 2 screens, plenty of faders here. They can easily scroll through custom layers. And then to our left here, we have another workstation. This computer runs Shure Wireless Workbench, so you can monitor all the wireless mics, the signals, and the battery levels. And then also we use a software called LiveTracks 2, and this is great for recording virtual sound checks, playing them back, so then you can work on a mix when the band isn't there. This is really my dream setup. I'm actually hopefully gonna have a system similar to like this at my church pretty soon. But between this console and this PA, perfection. I wanna show you why the Allen & Heath AHM is one of the most incredible tools for churches, especially when you combine that AHM matrix mixer that's in the rack with the Allen & Heath custom control panels that you see right here. This is like a whole other ecosystem of mixing capability Allen & Heath can give you in your church, aside from the mixing console. But what's also cool is the mixing console, because it's all Allen & Heath, they can play together very, very well and very seamlessly. What we did here at Palm City Presbyterian Church is I'm on the side stage right here where a lot of the worship band members will enter in to this stage area, and on this screen I have 2 buttons here. One is called console mode and one is called simple mode. In simple mode, if I press that button, what it's gonna do is it's gonna tell the AHM to be like, hey, just take the audio feeds coming from some of these handheld mics, these wireless handheld mics, and send those feeds directly to the PA system and bypass the mixing console. So this is like a very simplified mixing solution for if someone just needs to come in, they need to MC an event, they don't need anything else really on the mixing console. Maybe they want some music. We have another channel in here labeled BT for Bluetooth. So someone could play some background music from their phone to the PA, and they could also just have a handheld mic, or we have up to 2 handheld mics and 2 headset mics right now in simple mode. But when you have a full service with a full band and everything going on, you put it on console mode. So now the AHM is pulling the main mix from the Avantis and sending that to the PA system. So the way it does this is you have different types of audio feeds that can go into the AHM. We like using Dante audio for digital audio networking. So we have our wireless microphones, which have Dante out. Those wireless microphones over Dante are normally routed to the Avantis in console mode. So then when we hit simple mode, the same microphones, they have another Dante patch that is going to other inputs on the AHM. The AHM you can think of as just another mixing console or a matrix mixer, and you can toggle multiple different scenes and settings on it to say, in this scene, I want these inputs to go to these outputs, or in this scene, I want these inputs to go to those outputs. And that's what we're doing here with the custom control software. This is an app that Alan and Heath lets you then use on the network to program a custom interface like this. You could put photos on it, you can customize the dials and the faders and the buttons and the labels. All of it is completely custom, and you get this is a 10-inch screen. They also have a smaller 7-inch screen. So I think this is great for areas like this backstage, or you could have one of these at your front of house mixing console, so that when other events come into your church, you can show someone in 2 seconds. They don't have to touch an Alan and Heath Avantis, which is a bit more intimidating. They can go up to a touch screen like this, and you can just label it with very simple language for them to operate audio for the service. And the AHM comes in multiple sizes. There's a 16 by 16, a 32 by 32, and a 64 by 64. And in addition to the Dante inputs and outputs on it, you can also just have simple analog inputs and outputs. So we actually often use the AHM as well for digital signal processing, or a DSP. Let's say if someone wants to just tune their sound system, they don't have a proper DSP in place, the AHM is another great tool to use. So it can be a DSP, and it can do a lot of cool things like this as well. This is my favorite PA system for churches. This is a Meyer sound system, which consists of active speakers. And behind me, you can see our main arrays. We've got the right array, we've got the left array, and then we also have our center flown subs in the middle. So on the right side and the left side, we've got 7 boxes, which are the Meyer Lena boxes. This is the most compact version of Meyer's line array speakers. This works great for smaller to mid-sized church venues. Ideally, you're going to have a higher trim height like we do here, so that you can have enough boxes to get your proper line length control over the sound. Especially, it's important when it comes to the low end control with these line arrays. And I'm not going to dive into the science of audio design. Fortunately, we got designers on our team who understand that better than I do. But what you need to know is that these line array speakers, what they're really good at is they're really good at efficiently getting sound from way up there near the ceiling or wherever you're rigging them to further distances away. So you don't need delay speakers like you would in a point source system. With a typical point source speaker, your volume drops by about 6 decibels as you double the distance away. But with a line array system, it only drops by about 3 decibels as you double the distance away from the source. So that's why you don't need additional delay speakers or fill speakers, assuming you're within coverage of these line arrays. If your church has a larger venue that is probably going beyond 700, 800 into 900 seat auditorium, most likely you're going to want to look at a larger box by Meyer, the Leopard box. And then if you have a huge, gigantic venue, maybe the Panther, that's the line array box you'll see at the large rock concerts, and I know Metallica uses those speakers in the arenas. But the Lena delivers that incredible Meyer sound in such a compact format. So these Lena arrays cover the majority of the room here with especially our mid to high frequencies. And then we also have our subwoofers up here. These are the 2100 LFC subwoofers by Meyer. These have an amazing bass sound to them. It really fills the room nice and evenly, having the subs flown up here in the center. If we wanted more oomph from subs, we could also put some additional ones down on the floor. In this case, we didn't have the option to do any ground stack subwoofers under the stage, just the way the construction of the stage is. And of course, we can't put them on the floor because they have sports going on in this space. My favorite combination is having both flown subs to really cover the room nice and evenly, but then having the ground stack as well to give you some more oomph and feeling it in your feet. As you get closer to the stage, especially in the front rows, even with a line array system, you do have these boxes that get pretty close to the downstage area here. But to make sure everybody has great coverage up to the stage, we have these front fill speakers. So these are also Meyer speakers. These are point source speakers. The model of these speakers are the UPM-1P. So our audio designer was able to put it into his calculations, the distance you need between these front fills on the stage to have even coverage. So if you're sitting here in the first row or two, you're gonna also hear that same frequency response and loudness, appropriate loudness from the stage. And it's important, especially as a listener gets closer to the stage, you don't want them to necessarily feel like the sound is coming from like way up there to the side of them and above them. You want it to feel like it's coming from stage. So that's where front fills are really effective in having that consistent sound in every seat of the room, including that front row, where you know who usually sits in the front row and who has some strong opinions about the mix and the sound? Your pastor and your pastor's wife. We have two more speakers that are really crucial in this PA system design, and these are these delay speakers we have up here specifically for the tech booth area. So this church had a choice with this tech booth area being up here on a second story and really in a separate room. Fortunately, we have this nice big window to let sound in here, but our line arrays are aimed to point at everybody on the floor, right? That's for the main listening audience down there. And we considered, did we want to integrate this in a way where they had to put a mixing console down on the floor in the coverage of those arrays, or were we going to keep it up here in the tech booth? So what we decided to do in this space is to keep everything up here in the tech booth. So Sunday mornings, it's easy to open up the window, turn everything on, you're ready to mix. And we have these point source speakers here, the X20 by Meyer, which is going to work alongside of the speakers in the room to give our front of house mix engineer and the whole production team an accurate sense of the sound and the mix. And what's also cool is we're able to integrate this in a way where at front of house, the mix engineer can actually decide kind of on the fly how much louder or softer they want these delay speakers to be, because he wants to have an accurate sense of the mix, but sometimes we want it to be quieter up here for this team so that they're not having to yell over the music to talk to one another. So lots of flexibility here. These X20s, again, they have the incredible high fidelity sound of Meyer just on a very small scale. You can use them as delays, could use them as front fills or side fills, under balcony speakers, lots of flexibility with this box. And then our team of technicians, they were able to custom fabricate a little metal protection plate on the back side of these speakers to protect them from getting hit by volleyballs or basketballs. As you can see, Churchfront is a Meyer dealer and integrator, so we can help you design the right solution from Meyer Sound and get it installed and deployed and integrated into the audio system at your church. So don't hesitate to reach out to us at churchfront.com to learn more about getting one of these systems deployed at your church.
All right, for lighting in this space, we're gonna start with the house lights, and I think these are some of my favorite house lights that we've installed. These are from Meteor Lighting. These are called Rev 8 Prime lights, and this is a recessed option for this light. And I really do love both the color and the brightness of these lights. So this is a normal size, pretty good size gym. Seats probably, like Jake said, 400 or 500, maybe even up to 600 people if you really stuffed the room full. And there are only 15 of these lights. So right now, these are plenty bright for any church service. They're not quite bright enough with only 15 of them for a gym use. So if you were gonna play basketball or something, you still would turn on their normal utility lights. But for a church service, plenty bright. And the beauty of them is they are a full RGBW fixture. And I do have to say that I've worked with a lot of RGB lights over my time here at Churchfront and before, and these might be some of my favorite RGBW fixtures. I think the colors on them are just so smooth. I really like the greens and blues. I think that's some place that a lot of cheaper LED lights just don't look as good, is in the greens and blues, and these really just look fantastic. So that is the house lights for this space. For front lighting, like Jake said when we were going through how do we put lights up in a space that are friendly for a gym environment, meaning that if they get hit by a ball, one, they're robust enough not to get hurt, but two, they also can get reset to a new position very, very easily. Well, we went with all moving lights for our front lights. So there's a reason we did that. We wanted them to all really be able to be aimed somewhere else very quickly in case something happens. So in this instance, we have actually 10 front light wash and spots in the space. We have 2 Maverick Force S spots, and if I highlight just those here, You'll see those go on. Primarily right now, they're using those for a front wash below the front of their stage. The reason we really like these is these are a lot more directional than a normal wash light because they work almost more like an ellipsoidal light, but they're more of a profile fixture where they have a lot of options. So we have several of these across the back line as well that we're using for some eye candy lighting. For their normal stage wash, we are actually just using 8 Rogue R2X washes from Chauvet. These fixtures light up this entire stage really well, and again, they are a full color fixture, so if they wanted to do a color on their front wash, they absolutely could, but for the most part, like we've said on this channel before, you don't want your front wash to have color, so we've got them set to a really good color temperature that looks really good on skin tones, and it makes people look really good on stage. So right now we've got 8 of those lights lighting up pretty much their entire stage with some front wash fixtures. For the hair lights and kick lights, we went with, primarily we went with 12 Pro Church Lights kick lights. These, like we've shown before on this channel, are a full RGBW fixture, and the reason we went with these is honestly they are a much more affordable fixture than a lot of other wash lights and kick lights out there. So these look really great just as a hair light for everyone on your team on stage. It's easy to get good color. They're a very wide fixture, so they hit pretty much the whole stage with 12 of them, and this is a very large stage. This is probably one of the larger stages that I've been a part of setting up in the recent past. So like I said, I have 4 Maverick Force S spots from Chauvet on that back line as well. And these are really great fixtures. These have a lot of capabilities. We've got a couple different gobo wheels that we can use. We've got a full color wheel that we can go through to change colors on these. On top of that, they have a full RGB color wheel as well, so we can go through the spectrum of colors even before we put a color wheel over top of them, so you can actually combine color wheel and color together. They have prisms, so that if we went to a gobo here, split them up into 3 by using the prism, they get a 3-facet prism, and I can make that prism spin by setting the speed on which that prism spins. Gives a really cool look there. And we've got another video on our YouTube page that covers a lot of the features of these lights, but these work great as backline eye candy lights from above and below. In this case, we do have a couple lights on the stage, but those are a different light. So what we also have in the space is 4 R1E spots from Chauvet. These are, again, very, very powerful, very bright lights, and they also have some gobo features on them. And if I can get those in focus here, I can do the exact same thing with those 4 lights and actually have those split off into a prism as well. We can also make that prism start rotating. And we've got some very cool eye candy lights on the stage with all of those. In this space, we actually implemented 2 hazers. These are the Radiance hazers from Ultratech, and we have 2 of these, one on each side of the stage. Now, they don't have really great airflow in this room, so we are shooting both of those hazers directly into small little fans from Home Depot to try and spread that haze out quicker. And last but certainly not least are these Portman P2 Evo lights. We've got 4 of these on the stage, and these are really, really cool fixtures. I was actually a little skeptical of these fixtures when Jake showed them to me because they just look like some basic blinders, but what they have is they have some edge lights that are full RGBW, so I can do all of the things I can do with normal colored lights, but then they also have a center light fixture on them that is very, very bright, and so these can actually be used as blinders on top of some color splashes as well. So the ability to have all of that in one fixture, I just think really makes these special lights. They're a little expensive, but they are doing a lot. It's a lot of light. You can tell from that like how bright they are. You only need a few of these on a stage to really make a significant difference to what your stage looks like. I wanted to just walk you through some of the presets and settings we have for their service. So right here, we've got a pre-service look. We've got a countdown video setting here, which brings down the stage lights. An opening video setting that just kind of drops everything down a little bit, kind of keeps just those Portmans on. And then we've got some worship settings. And basically, they're not doing a ton of extreme worship setting setups at this point. They've got the potential and the ability to do that in the future, but we wanted to give them some basics to learn how to use this system. And these are just some different looks and colors that we gave them for their normal weekend setup. I'm just kind of walking through these for you to see all the different colors that we've got set up for their weekend services. And then obviously we can go to their sermon setting here so that during the sermon, a lot of those movers kind of come down a little bit. We're just using the kick lights in order to keep the focus on the pastor at the front. And then at the end of their service, they almost always have something that happens right there on the floor during their benediction. And so we've got a setting where the lights actually turn up on the front floor there in order to light up the pastor as he speaks through the benediction on his way out of service.
One of the very important aspects of this upgrade for this church was their LED screen. Prior to having this screen, they just had 2 side screens, which they still retain those projection screens. But prior to this, they didn't have any content on the upstage portion here that allowed everybody's attention to focus towards the center of the room. So the screen that you're looking at now is 18 feet wide by 9.8 feet tall, and it is flown. And if you move behind here, you'll see just how slim these panels are. They take up, maybe like 1.5 to 2 inches of space of depth here on the stage. And they could have some flexibility. It's not on a motorized truss, but if you wanted to put about a day worth of work in, you probably could move this down to the floor if needed, or raise it back up. Again, I would recommend having like a motorized truss or rig points if you want to change it quickly. But this is a very functional placement for their content here on this stage. So when the pastor's preaching, preaching slides can go up here, and then during worship, we'll have lyrics and motion backgrounds, much like you see behind me here. And the processor we're using here is the MX20. One of the great things about the LED screen is you can just put all sorts of different types of content on there. It's gonna look fantastic. Let me just go ahead and show you some different graphics here. Got some landscape graphics, got some abstract graphics. And that's one of the nice things about having a center screen on the center of your stage is it plays a part of your stage design and almost sets that backdrop. It can really complement the lighting design that you have on stage. And there's just so many great content out there between Sunday screens or the content that they have with Pro Presenter now, Pro content, to be able to have incredible background creative graphics for worship. So from the screen itself, you have a few data lines that run into the Novastar processor, the MX20, and that MX20 is receiving the video signal from the ATEM video switcher. The team at Altitude, they can send their techs out to assist in an install like this and help you finish off this type of install with their simplified install plan, or our team here at Churchfront can just do this fully turnkey for you, whichever way makes more sense for your church. We're back at the equipment racks backstage. We're gonna move to the second rack, which has our computer world, our video world, as well as our lighting, distro, and control world here. So starting at the top, we also have our network, which is very important. It's a unified network. We're using a Dream Machine here to have an isolated network setup for the AVL system. And down below that, we've got the patch bays, which our technicians did a great job putting together. Up next, we have our genetics lighting node. This receives our streaming ACN from LightKey to send all the DMX signals to our lighting fixtures. So from LightKey, you can output that data over the network into this device here, this node, and then from here, you're able to have lots of control over all of these various outputs of the node, what universe you want to send out them, which DMX signals you want to send where, just lots of flexibility here. And then these cables here are then running to all of our various lighting pipes for DMX control. Moving on, we have our video system. So the heart of this system is a ATEM Constellation 2ME 4K switcher, so it has 12G capability to really future-proof all the video system here. We ran 12G SDI cable everywhere for all the video inputs and outputs with this setup. Down here, you have the MX20 processor by Novastar. This is the standard processor we've been speccing with Altitude. I like how this processor has the Mac software you can use. It's much more intuitive to control all of your processor settings. Moving down, we have Computer World. So down here, we've got our 3 computers. They're all Mac Minis for our various workstations. So we have our broadcast video computer, front of house audio computer, and our computer graphics lighting computer that runs Pro Presenter and LightKey. Down here, we have the Echo 3 expansion chassis. What's really cool about this expansion chassis is you can actually expand onto it with more PCIe cards. Right now, we just have one Echo 3 slot in here with Thunderbolt connectivity to our CG computer, and then this is where our deck link is installed to get video outputs into the switcher here. This rack has plenty of breathing room. If we have to add more devices in the future, we've got that, and we've got the battery backup on the bottom as well. Let's go to my favorite part, the back of the rack. So here we are in the back of this rack. We have the nice light in here that comes on so I can see what's going on. I've got my network patch bays, my lighting, and then down here we have all of our video cabling. The 12G SDI is this purple cable right here. We have the thinner cable for inter-rack connections. Here's our processor. We've got 6 data cables that are coming from the processor that go to the LED screen, so that's how we get that video signal. And then we also got the input for video going in here over HDMI. A little trick here is to keep it 4K. This processor only has 3G SDI inputs, so we had to use a adapter to use the HDMI 4K into the back of the processor. Moving down, you can see the back of our Rack Mac Mini with all of our connections going to our KVMs. Down here we have that expansion chassis. Like I said, they've got a whole other slot. They could fit more of these PCIe cards in if they had to. And then you can see all of our KVMs are here mounted on the side here. This is another nice thing about these larger racks is you just got more room to organize and mount things. And once again, great job to our technicians, Chris and the team, for doing an excellent job on assembly and dressing the rack. One really important aspect of integration is power sequencing. So here we are using LinTech. It's my favorite technology for powering on and off your AV system. And there's all sorts of tools they've got. This is their simple little switch, the little red and green switch, which is going to toggle the LinTech control system. So what we did here at this church, they actually already had LinTech in place for their older sound system. So we're able to retain that for the newer speaker systems that we mounted in almost the same place for power for those powered Meyer speakers. And then we were able to switch all their power over from an older theatrical ETC dimmer rack that had a bunch of circuits running to all of the light rigging points. We were able to swap that out for a standard breaker panel, and then we're able to install a LinTech relay panel with a controller in it to then control all of the lighting and the power that goes to not just the light fixtures but also the LED screen as well. And what's cool about LinTech is you can buy the relay panels that can be installed next to a breaker panel. They have the motorized breaker panels. There's all sorts of options there depending on your budget, but they also have the little remote power units that you can install by your front of house workstations or any other where else that you're not easily able to access the circuit that is actually going to be connected to the relay system. You can actually control those remote modules over the network with just a data cable. So LinTech allows us to network in and control the powering on and off. You can automate on and off sequences for a setup like this. So when Sunday morning rolls around, they could just automate turning everything on, right before everybody gets here for sound check, and then turning it off once they're leaving after services. Lots of power and capability, and also it's important for just protecting your equipment with the proper surge protection and just the way you power them on and off in the right sequence.
Now, if you stuck around Churchfront for a while, you probably know that the team refers to me as the Stream Deck nerd. So I really like what you can do with a Stream Deck, all the different control features that they have, the things that you can set up on them. So I'm going to quickly walk you through the way that I use Stream Decks in church services to control everything that we need to do on a Sunday morning. So in this instance right here, we have a basic lighting and ProPresenter setup. They didn't want a lot of ProPresenter control on this, so really we're just using this for lighting, but because they have a lot of lights, we wanted to give them a lot of options. So what we've got is some basic lighting settings that fire up main systems. So for instance, they can turn their Hazer off and on from here. They can quickly fire up the house lights. It's really important to actually think that through. In the instance of an emergency in your service, you need to be able to get your house lights on very quickly. They should also be wired into your emergency system, whether that's somehow through your local fire department or alarm company sets that up so that they'll turn on when your alarm goes off. But Also, in the case of maybe somebody having a heart attack in your service, God forbid, you want to be able to turn the house lights on quickly to get help to the people that need it. Also wanted to give the ability to quickly turn on sermon lighting. Something doesn't work. This is kind of just a, oh shoot, I need that to happen quickly button. So this is just quickly, they can grab their sermon lighting, they can turn their pre-service lighting on and off from here very, very quickly. And then what actually Frank did, and this is part of his design, is he gave them some basic eye candy settings. Like I said, they're not doing a whole lot yet. They're not running tracks here. They want the ability to utilize these lights a little bit more in depth on a Sunday morning. So let's say they're in a worship setting here. And so what Frank did with this Stream Deck and on these buttons is he created some basic eye candy settings. So if I click on one of these eye candy settings, they're very subtle, but you'll notice the Portman lights changed and they're doing some just basic fading. And he gave them several different options to do different types of basic fades in order to add a little texture to the stage. So right there, we're going to go to kind of a pink fade in and out. He gave them a bunch of options to use those Portman P2 Evo lights for that. And then on top of that, he gave them the ability to use their movers a little bit differently. So we can do a basic pan and tilt with their movers, so we can get some movement on the stage with their lights there. And then he also gave them the ability to do some basic random dims with those moving lights as well. So they're just giving some basic texture, adding that to the stage design. And then of course, at the end of a worship set, you want to make sure that you can clear all of those kind of screwy lighting effects. You don't want things to be blinking when your pastor's on stage. So they have one button here that just clears every single one of those eye candy settings. And it makes it go back to just a basic stage setting. So whatever is live here in their service cue presets, that is what is going to be shown on the stage with the lighting. For the Stream Deck in the front of house position, I think we did something kind of cool, and I already did a short on this on our Instagram account. I wanted to give them a couple different ways to manage Waves Tune on their Waves system, which is connected to this Avantis console. So if you are someone who likes to just be ready to go on the fly, change to whatever you need to change to, I gave them every single key, every single major key, I should say, that is available on Waves Tune. This is going to work for 99% of the music out there. If for some odd reason you don't want key-specific tuning on a song, all he has to do is click off. So right now it's already on chromatic, but if I go to A, you'll notice that that goes to A major, A sharp major, B major, C major, and so on. And then if all of a sudden I don't know what key the song is going to be in, we're going to click that to off. It's going to go back to chromatic. So that's one way that we used tuning and a Stream Deck to change that tuning. The other thing that I did is gave them an option for if they want to get planned out ahead of time and have just key specific songs. So I can basically load a song setting here, and right now that song is set to C major, and then song 2 is set to A major. But what I can do is actually change song 1. Let's change it to D major real quick here. We'll send to all. I now have a store scene button. Now scene 1 is stored as D instead of C. If I recall song 2, it's in A major. Song 1 is now D major. So you've got the ability to plan it out ahead of time where you can just fire song for song, or you can just fire the key that you want to fire on a weekly service. And the last thing that we did here that I think is maybe one of the cooler solutions that we came up with is tying into that AHM16 that we installed here. We were thinking about the fact that this sound person is mixing, and if they're mixing on these delay speakers and it's as loud up here as it is down there on the floor, which is what we were trying to go for, so that he can mix at a decibel level that he knows if it's this loud up here, it's that loud down on the floor. So if he's doing that after a short period of time, he doesn't necessarily need it that loud. He just needs to know that it's that loud on the floor. So once he gets a good mix, what we did is we gave him a button here that toggles between 2 different modes on the AHM processor. And what it does is it actually reduces the decibel level in this position by about 10 decibels. So quickly he can go to full volume mode where he's hearing it at the same decibel level that it is on the floor, or he can drop the decibels down so that he can still mix, but the people up here don't have to yell over each other during a service to try and communicate, because they're not using any kind of headsets up in this space since it's so isolated already. And finally, in the broadcast setup here, you've probably seen what I've done with a Stream Deck and 3 PTZ cameras before, where I have a line for presets for camera 1, a line for 2, a line for 3. Well, here we actually added 4 cameras. So I had to rethink kind of my layouts. Everything you do when you're doing this type of an install is a concession of one kind or another. Either we're making a concession for cost or just equipment. We have to figure out how the best use of the equipment that we install in a space. So what we're doing here is, instead of using my normal kind of horizontal layout where each line is its own camera, I split it up into 4 sections. So we have camera 1 presets, 2 presets, 3 presets, 4 presets. That's the top 3 lines of each. So basically you have 6 presets per camera for those 4 cameras. So what I can do is quickly grab a preset. Let's recall a preset on camera 2, and now it is in preview. I can switch to that, I can cut to it, or I can fade to it, just like you've seen me do in past videos. So now I'm on camera 2, I can very quickly grab a preset on camera 1 up here. Let's grab a different preset. That changed. Now I'm going to go ahead and click cut again, and now I've got that in program. So I've got 4 PTZ cameras. You can set 6 presets up per, and then switch to them as needed. Basically, the bottom row of this Stream Deck is dedicated pretty much entirely to settings on the ATEM switcher. So we've got lower thirds toggled on and off. We don't have words on the screen, otherwise they would toggle on and off with that button. We've got camera 1, 2, 3, and 4 previews. So if I like the preset it's on, maybe during sermon, I get the sermon settings set up so that I don't need to move the cameras every time and recall a preset. I can just go back and forth between those cameras without recalling a preset. I've got the computer graphics send, which something I did here is we have multiple computer graphics sends. We have the LED wall, what's being sent to the LED wall. We also have the computer graphics that's being sent to the side screens. So I can actually toggle through those different CG inputs using the same button by using a 2-step process in Companion. And then of course I've got fade and cut for those 2 sources.
So the video you're seeing now is footage from the Canon CRN 700 PTZ camera. This is Canon's flagship PTZ camera with a 1-inch sensor, and the results you can get with this camera are fantastic. I'm actually following him right now using the RC IP100 joystick controller. It is so smooth to operate, and the motors on this guy are really fast. Watch how fast if I zoom out, it goes super fast zooming out. If I zoom all the way in, it gets right back in, it locks in focus. So this is why this camera is a bit more expensive than the CRN 500, which I think is still a great value for churches. But this one, you can just feel like you've got more horsepower as you're operating it. Of course, Canon does have the auto tracking available as well. And we have 4 of these cameras total. So this is camera 1, which is our CRN 700. Then we've got camera 2, which I'll switch to. Now I've got camera 2 here. This is a CRN 300. This camera actually has a farther zoom because it has a smaller sensor, so I can get a little bit tighter here on Matt. You could tell the autofocus is struggling a little bit more on that camera. I prefer using this camera as like my secondary shot, maybe doing like a head-to-toe shot, or having just a nice wide perspective of the whole room or the whole stage. And then as a video director, it's easy to toggle between these 2 different angles here between camera 1 and camera 2. So if I go back to camera 1, and I want this to be my tighter shot here, and then camera 2 can be my wider shot, just like that. So we have a 700 and a 300 that are right underneath front of house, and then Matt will show you the 700 that we have on stage. So Matt, go ahead and you can walk over to that. I'm gonna go ahead and try to pull it up in preview, and I will cut to it. So Matt is actually showing you this camera, and now I can move it around. It is a little difficult trying to film a YouTube video and operate these cameras. But now you can see this is a CRN 700. Maybe Matt, go ahead and pretend you're like a drummer or a keyboardist, and we can show them how this camera performs when you're zooming in closer to people on stage. So right now, this camera is wall mounted like you saw. You could also have the flexibility if you want to put a camera like this on a tripod. You could move it around to different locations. You'll have the data and video cable. Look at how close I can get to him. Oh man, that looks good. That's crispy. We've got the bokeh background there. I mean, the image is great. I don't know about the subject, but yes, this camera is so flexible. So you can imagine I can set presets on any one of the instrumentalists here on stage for some really great perspectives, and the color matching is going to be awesome. So then on the other side of the stage, we have another Canon CRN 300, And this camera here, I like using it for wider shots because, again, as we saw in the other 300 underneath front of house, it struggles a little bit with that smaller sensor when you're trying to lock in focus. So I think it's just a great flexible kind of wide shot. But if I wanted to zoom all the way in to like my drummer, look at how close the perspective could be if I wanted to do that. So depending on what lighting scenes are on, it's going to look, you know, better or worse. This is the preaching lighting scene on right now, so not as much light is on the backline musicians, but we could easily switch that with our lights. So now we want to show you one of the coolest things we've implemented here at Churchfront, and it's going to be this cool motorized camera enclosure that we have sitting underneath front of house. So the camera angle that you see right now, you see me running the PTZ Optics camera, Matt is running the Sony camera there on the floor, and look what you have here. You have this little drop-down enclosure. Actually, Matt, go ahead and walk us through what they're looking at.
So basically what we had our electrician do is, he kind of offered to do this, but he built a box using a TV lift that you would order off of like Amazon. So if you wanted one of those hidden TVs in your bedroom, this is what you would order for that. And then he added that motor to this box that he had a carpenter make. And so what he's got here is actually a basic box that this little shelf slides up into when they're not using these cameras on a Sunday morning. And it uses just a 12-volt motor. You get a couple buttons upstairs for that. And it also allowed us to have something to mount the confidence monitor to. So we initially had bought a confidence monitor protection piece that was going to go around this entire thing, but it ended up not being the right solution. So Sean on our team, big shout out to Sean, he actually came up with the idea to go get some Lexan custom made from a local sign manufacturer here in Stewart. And he actually cut us this piece of Lexan and we custom built this enclosure for this TV. So if a volleyball comes at it, it can't fit through that side space there and will actually protect the TV from any impacts. But then also on a weekly basis, when they're not using this space for services, all they have to do is press a button upstairs, and I'll have Jake press that button right now. So when Jake hits that button to close, it just lifts that plate right up inside the box to protect the cameras during their weekly use. Then on Sunday mornings when they come in, all they have to do is hit the open button on the desk upstairs, and cameras come right back down to where they were in order to run services.
So that's how we capture high quality video with all of those cameras we just showed you with the Canon system. It all goes into the A10 video switcher, and then the program output from the switcher actually gets sent to this audio monitor by Blackmagic right here. This is a really great way to monitor audio levels here at this workstation to ensure that we are getting the right audio feed and a good quality feed to the live stream. And then from here, we have a SDI loop out from the audio monitor, and then that gets sent into the BoxCast Spark encoder. And this is our favorite encoder for streaming services online for churches, whether it's to a private web page or to multiple social media accounts at once. You can also back up a recording on an SD card into this encoder as well. This guy can do lots of cool stuff for remote mixing. So much power in this encoder. Highly recommend. That's why we deploy it in most of our systems here at churches. That wraps up this episode of Worship Tech Tour. Don't forget to check out the free Churchfront toolkit linked down below this video for a comprehensive list of all of our recommended solutions for worship and production ministry. If you would like to work with our team on your next project, whether it's a major tech upgrade like this, a building project, an expansion at your church, our Churchfront team is ready to help you. Reach out to us at churchfront.com to get started with your pre-design process with our team, and we'll get to work. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, leave a like. Let us know what you think down below in the comments. Share it with your friends, and we'll see you next time.